Hello everyone! In this opportunity we are going to talk about the government and society in the early Middle Ages. Here you can see the topics we are going to develop, which are the growth of government, law and justice, religious beliefs, ordinary people in country and town, the growth of towns as centers of wealth, and language, literature and culture. Let's begin then. William the Conqueror had governed England and Normandy by travelling from one place to another to make sure that his authority was accepted. When William and the kings after him moved around the country, they were accompanied by many followers. Wherever they went, the local people had to give them food and a place to stay. However, this form of government could only work properly for a small kingdom. By the time the English kings were also ruling half of France, they could not travel everywhere themselves. That is why they sent nobles and knights from the royal household to act as sheriffs. The king's household was the government. The king's administration kept a rigorous watch on noble families and checked the towns and the ports to ensure that taxes were paid. The officials in Westminster had to watch the economy of the country carefully. Most business was done by the spoken word, but the need for paperwork grew quickly as the administration did. From 1199, the administration in Westminster kept copies of all the documents that were sent out.
As regards law, the only person who was responsible for law and justice was the king. But after the Norman conquest, nobles were in charge of justice among the village and people on their lands. Henry I wanted the same kind of justice to be used everywhere, so he decided to name a number of judges, who traveled from one place to another, administrating the same kind of justice. At first the king's judges, who were nobles and bishops, had no special knowledge or training, so they used common sense. But by the end of the 12th century, the judges had real knowledge and their law was known as common law. England was the only country in Europe which used the common law. In other countries, legal practice was based in the civil law of the Roman Empire and the canon law of the Church. In Anglo-Saxon times, when it was not clear if a man was guilty or innocent, he was tested in battle or tested by ordeal, which consisted in putting a hot iron on the man's tongue. If the third mark persisted for 3 days, the man was thought to be guilty. Nevertheless, by the end of the 12th century, Henry II replaced the trial by ordeal with the trial by jury. Therefore, the accused man could choose 12 neighbors to prove that he was innocent. These juries had no training in the law. They used common sense. As a result, law school grew up during the 13th century and lawyers could advise juries about the points of law.
As regards religion, the village church was different from the powerful organization the king had to deal with. At the time of William I, the village priests could hardly read and they were usually peasants. The priest's church belonged to the local lord and was built next to the lord's house. Almost all priests were married, and many inherited the position from their father. Although the church wanted to replace the lord's authority with its own, in many places the lord continued to choose the local priest, and to have more influence over him than the most distant church authorities. The church tried to prevent priests from marrying. As a result, by the end of the 13th century, married priests were unusual. As the population grew, more people perceived that they could not feed their family, for it was extremely difficult to live on the land. Therefore, many of them decided to enter a religious house, a monk who learned to read and write, and had food and shelter. The monasteries were centers of wealth and learning, so they grew extraordinarily. The 13th century brought a new movement, the brotherhoods or friars. These friars were wandering preachers who were interested in the souls of ordinary people and tried to bring the comfort of Christianity to them. They lived with the poor and in contrast with the power and wealth of the monasteries and cathedrals.
As for the organization of the population, 2 million of people lived in England in 1066, and most of them lived in the countryside. Their lands were used for farming. They worked every single day of the year until they were unable to do it. People lived in simple houses, which were made of wooden beams with sticks and thatches. Poor people were divided from the master by the manorial system, which consisted in the exchange of land for labor. Peasants worked most of the time in the home farm, which belonged to the landlord, and the rest of the time they worked in their common land. They were forbidden to leave the lord's service of the land without permission. The manorial system feudal had been growing slowly throughout the Anglo-Saxon period, but it was fully developed by the Normans. It's worth mentioning that Saxons and Normans feared and hated each other. But in 1204, when the King John lost Normandy, the Norman ruling class began to mix and marry the Saxons, and they considered themselves English rather than French. There is a famous story, Robin Hood, which grew out of Saxons' hatred for Norman rule, and it was very popular with the common people, but the ruling class greatly disliked it. By 1300, the population was probably just over 4 million, which had a bad effect in life in the countryside. It was difficult for peasants who tried to farm the land and to grow food for everyone. The effort to farm more land could not match the increase in population. The lands were overused and they had a bad harvest. As a result, people starved to death. What is more, the prices were high in bad season, and this inflation weakened the feudal ties. Many knights became increasingly indebted. There was a small Jewish community who lent money to those knights in debt. But when the knights could not repay the money, the Jewish moneylender sold the knights' lands to the nobility. Edward I, who was against the growth and power of nobility, wanted the support of the knightly class, so he forced the Jewish community to leave the country in 1290. Feudalism was slowly disappearing, but this change made the landlords richer and the peasants poorer. Some of the landless people went to the towns.
Economy was an important issue too. Although England was self-sufficient to a point, throughout the Middle Ages she needed things from abroad, such as salt and spices. Inside this agricultural society there was a good deal of trade between different regions. Nevertheless, it was not as formal as international trade. The most important link was with the Low Countries, and the basis of this trade was wool. English exporters could charge a price high above the production cost, since no other country could match the high quality of English wool. Of course, William I obtained a considerable income from customs dues. He encouraged Flemish weavers to settle in England, for they had good connections with Europe and could begin a lively trade. They helped to establish new towns, such as Newcastle and Boston. These towns were valuable centres to nobles who wanted to save their produce and to kings who wished to benefit from the increase in national wealth. Traders or producers met at larger fairs, where they could make deals. By the 12th century, kings realized that towns could become effective centers of royal authority. For this reason, the kings freed the inhabitants from feudal duties to the local lord by giving towns charters of freedom, which had to be paid for. As a result, towns could raise their own local taxes on goods coming in, and have their own courts controlled by the town merchants. In the towns, people were able to develop social and economic organizations free from feudal rule. It was the beginnings of a middle class and a capitalist economy. Towns and economy were controlled by guilds, which were brotherhoods of different kinds of merchants or of skilled workers. Under them, trade was more tightly controlled than at any later period. Possibly it was from among the members of the guild that the town's leaders were chosen. During the 14th century, because of the growth of towns, craft guilds appeared. Members of these guilds had the right to produce, buy or sell their particular trade without having to pay special taxes. But at the same time, they had to make sure that goods were of a certain quality. The development of craft guilds in London were further than elsewhere.
To conclude, as for literature, in England it was closely connected with the 12th century Renaissance, a cultural movement which had first started in Italy. This revolution in ideas and learning brought a new desire to test religion faith against reason. Schools of learning were established in many towns and cities. Some of them were grammar schools, independent of the church, whereas others were attached to a cathedral. Latin was the educated language of all Europe because most of the books were written in this language, and it was useful in the spread of idea and learning. However, most English people could not speak Latin, and a few could go to the universities. In England, two schools of higher learning were established, Oxford and Cambridge. Finally, it is important to mention that it was a long time before English became the language of the ruling class, and some French words became part of the English language.
Well, that's all. We hope you have enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.